Okay, so today's objective is just one. It's identifying the angles formed by parallel lines and transversals. Who can tell me what parallel lines are? Haley?
Lines that go on forever and never.
Okay, lines that go on together and never touch. In geometry, we add the fact that the lines are in the same plane, which means they'd be on the same flat surface, and they go on forever and never touch. An example of that would be train tracks would form parallel lines. They don't go on forever because eventually the train tracks stop, but that gives you a visual of what parallel lines would look like. So these lines that I'm going to draw little arrows on are parallel to one another. The two lines that I just drew the purple arrows on. The line that's going across this line that's labeled with the letter T, that's kind of hard to see, I'll make that T a little bigger, is called a transversal. A transversal is just a fancy name for a line that crosses over two parallel lines. So our fill-ins here is the line T, shown below, crosses over two parallel lines. It is known as a transversal. The word trans means across. I don't know exactly what versal means, but transversal means it goes across the lines. Okay, now when we have a transversal crossing parallel lines, we have a lot of angles that are formed, and these angles have a lot of different relationships. So these are some new definitions to keep track of. The first is corresponding angles. Corresponding angles lie on the same side of the transversal. So here's the transversal. We could have the things to the right of the transversal or the angles to the left of the transversal. Corresponding angles will always be on the same side, and they're in corresponding positions. So one pair of corresponding angles would be angle 6 and angle 2. They're on the same side of this transversal in corresponding positions. So they're both right above the parallel line. So angle 6 and angle 2 would be one pair. Anyone want to give me another pair? Michaela?
5 and 1.
5 and 1. Let's see, 5. Yep. 5 and 1. Another set. Irene?
8 and 4.
8 and 4. Well, these colors up here are so bright with this new ball. This is awesome. I could probably use some of these light colors that I never use. Jimmy? 7 and 3. Good.
Ooh, I like that.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
That was like a forbidden color before because we couldn't see that.
You
Now I have access to all.
You should use that color more.
I will now that I have the new projector. All right, so those are all of our pairs of corresponding angles. We'll try it. I'll write some words with it, see if you guys can see it. The next one is called alternate interior angles. And some of these, you can remember what they are based on the word. Like, for example, corresponding angles, they're in corresponding positions. So they're kind of in the same position. Alternate interior angles lie between the two parallel lines. That's where we get the word interior, because they're between the parallel lines, and they're on opposite or alternate sides of the transversal. So I'm going to erase my colors up here, and we are going to list pairs of alternate interior angles. I will give you the first pair. There actually are only 2 pairs of alternate interior because they have to be both on the inside of the parallel lines. So here's our parallel lines. They have to be in between on opposite sides of the transversal. So angles 5 and angle 4 is one pair. What's another pair? Grace?
The 6 and 3.
The 6 and 3. That's all that's left. Those pretty Easter egg colors. 6.
Oh, that one's not very good.
Need this to go away so I can write under it. I'll write it over here. Oh, there.
That color is not very.
That one's maybe not bright enough.
I like that color.
Okay. Now, there are two other kinds of angles that I don't have on my original notes. I haven't had a chance to revise these, but Get More Math has a couple other kinds, so I want to tell you what those are. Just as there are alternate interior, there are also alternate exterior angles. So write that one down. Alternate exterior angles, which is kind of the same thing as alternate interior angles, except that they are on the outside of the parallel lines. So angles 8 and 1 would be alternate exterior angles. What's the other pair of alternate exterior angles? Zoe?
2 and 7.
2 and 7. And then there's one other type that's also not listed here. It's called consecutive angles. Consecutive angles are both, they're on the same side of the transversal in between the two parallel lines. So let me erase some of this. So angles 5 and 3 would be consecutive angles. They're angles that are right next to each other on the same side of the parallel line. So 5 and 3. What would another, Eli, what would another pair of consecutive angles be? 4 and 6. So 4 and angle 6. Okay, and then down at the bottom, it asks you to list the pairs of vertical angles. We can't forget about those vertical angles that we've learned about. There are a lot of vertical angles that, that show up in here. Grace, can you name a pair of vertical angles?
8 and 5.
8 and 5, good. Whoops. 8 and 5. Carly, another pair of vertical angles?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. Riley, another pair of vertical angles? 7 and 6, good. And there are more, but we're just going to label a few of them for right now. Guys, you guys need to stay focused and be paying attention. All right, everybody get everything from this slide? Okay, corresponding angles.
Wait, do we have to be able to tell these all apart?
Alternate interior angles. And vertical angles. And alternate exterior angles. Are all equal to one another. So when you have a pair of corresponding angles, they are the same angle measure. If you have a pair of alternate interior angles, they are the same angle measure. If you have a pair of alternate exterior, same measure, and you already knew that vertical angles are the same. The other kind of angle, the consecutive angles, make a sum of 90 degrees. Or not 90, 180 degrees. They make a sum of 180. So we'll look at those as we see some examples. All right, so in the first example, it says in the diagram below, lines P and Q are parallel. They're usually going to tell you that because you really shouldn't ever make assumptions in geometry. One other way that you know that lines are parallel is if they put these two little arrows on the lines, that's telling you that those lines are parallel.
Would you be able to blow that up a little bit? We can't even see that.
Can you see it on your paper?
Not barely. It's like, it's the size.
Let me see if I can. I might be able to.
I didn't know if you could blow it up on your board.
Yeah, I can, I think. How's that?
That's good.
Now let's move it over here so we can see it better. Okay, there we go. That works. Well, the little arrow things didn't go with it. They're over here. See? They're over there by themselves. We'll erase them. And we'll put some new little arrow thingies. There we go. So often there are two. Okay, so lines P and Q are parallel if angle 2 is 110 degrees. So here's angle 2. We're saying that it's 110 degrees. What is the measure of angle 7? So first of all, let's talk about what is the relationship between angles 2 and angle 7. Feel free to look back at the notes you just took. Which type of angle pair are angle 2 and angle 7? Irene?
Alternate interior?
They are alternate interior. They're both on the inside of the parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. So they're alternate interior. So if angles 2 and angle 7 are alternate interior angles, what does angle 7 have to be? Adria?
110 degrees.
It has to be 110 degrees. Now, there are a variety of angles up here that are also 110 degrees. You can tell me another angle that would be 110 degrees. Zoe?
3 and 6.
3 and 6? No, not quite. Ailey? Angle 4 is also 110. Ailey, how did you know that angle 4 is 110? Good. Angles 4 and angle 7 are vertical angles. Angle 4 also forms another angle pair with angle 2. What are angle 4 and angle 2? What kind of angles are those? Braden?
I was going to say for 5.
5 would also be vertical. Sure, we'll write that one down. Now, what is the relationship? If we look at angles 4 and 2, they're the same. What's the relationship between them? Taryn? They are corresponding angles, as are 5 and 7. Can we find the measures of all of the remaining angles?
Yes.
Yes. How can we do that? Irene? Subtract from? They would all be 70. Good. These angles all form adjacent pairs that are supplementary. So we just need to subtract from 180. So this would be 70. So would 6, because it forms a supplementary pair with 5, also because it's vertical. Angle 8 is 70 degrees because it corresponds with angle 6, and because it's an alternate exterior angle with angle 1, which is 70. So you can see how all of these are related in a variety of different ways. So anytime you're given a set of parallel lines, you know one angle, you can find all of the rest of the angles. Any questions so far? Okay. We can prove that lines are parallel by using the angle measures. When you guys get to geometry, you'll do something called proofs, where it will state something that supposedly is true, and you have to go through this organized list of explaining why it's true using various theorems, which are statements which are already proven to be true in geometry. I love geometry proofs. I wish we had time to delve into that a little bit in 7th grade, but we do not. That's my favorite part of geometry. But this is a little bit of kind of a taste of what you will do. It says angle 4 is 120 degrees. So this angle is 120 degrees. And angle 8 is 120 degrees. Are these lines parallel, and why would they be parallel? Adria?
Aren't they corresponding?
They are corresponding. Yeah. So angles 4 and 8, if those lines were parallel, we would call them corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are equal. So since they are equal, we can say that they are corresponding angles to the parallel lines. So angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are equal and mean the lines are parallel. Okay, well, I'll give you a chance to write that before I say the next thing.
Will we be able to use this packet for getting
Yeah.
There's a lot of angles to
Does spelling count?
When I give you a quiz on all these terms, which I'm going to do, probably tomorrow, I'm going to give you time today to study them all just on the names, not on using them, just on what they're all called. Spelling will not count because it'll be multiple
Wait,
choice.
do you have to know the definition or just like list them?
Well, you have to be able to recognize them. Most of them have a picture too. So I'm not going to require you to write the definition. When I used to teach geometry, I made my students memorize every single theorem and definition, which was really good because they all knew, even the struggling ones knew geometry pretty well. But and I used to give these quizzes where they were fill in the blank kind of quizzes where they had to fill in a substantial part of the definition. This is not a geometry class. We are only just beginning a little geometry in 7th grade. I'm not going to make you do that. It will all be like matching, true, false kind of stuff. So you won't have to pull the names up out of the air. All right, using the diagram above, same one. If angle 7 is 40 degrees, so we are going to now, in fact, you know what I'm going to do, and you guys might even want to redraw it. I'm going to take this and just move it down there because this is not the same as that. We're going to forget that we said those angles are 120 because we're going to use different numbers now. So if you want to redraw another one, you can do that. If angle 7 is 40 degrees, so here's angle 7, we're saying that it's 40 degrees, and angle 1 is 140 degrees, are the lines parallel? Now we don't know anything about these two angles as far as being an angle pair. They are not corresponding. They're not alternate interior. They're not alternate exterior. But is there a way we could say, by maybe finding some of the other angles, that we could tell whether those lines are actually parallel? Think about this for a minute. I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to think about it. You can discuss it with your neighbor, and then we'll talk about whether or not we can prove that these lines are parallel based on these angle measures. All right, give me your ideas. Anybody have any ideas? Grace?
They are not parallel because they're not corresponding. They're not equal.
Okay, wait, they're what?
They're not equal to each other.
They're not equal to each other. Do they need to be equal to each other? Are they any of those special angle pairs? Are these two angles either alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, or what are you saying they are?
They're alternate exterior.
Okay, well, alternate exterior angles are both outside the parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. So actually angle 2 would form an alternate exterior angle with angle 7. So they're not alternate exterior. Any other ideas? Irene?
You use subtraction to do 140 minus, or 180 minus 140 to find angle 2 would equal 40, and then 7 and 2 would actually correspond. No,
Okay.
Alternate exterior, so therefore they would be parallel.
Okay, good. Well said. We talked about this a little bit. You can use subtraction because angles 1 and 2 form a supplementary angle pair. So we can find that angle 2 is 40 degrees. Well, angle 2 and angle 7 do form one of those equal pairs. Angle 2 and angle 7 are alternate exterior angles. When alternate exterior angles are equal, the lines are parallel. So equal, I'm going to abbreviate a little bit, equal alternate exterior angles mean lines are parallel. We are going to stop with this slide. I do not want to get into the complicated types that we've been doing in Get More Math where you have to set up equations and solve. We will be doing that tomorrow, but today we need a little time just to get familiar with these terms, get these terms memorized, and understand which angles are equal to each other. So a couple ways that we're going to do that. First of all, you will have an assignment in Get More Math today that asks you to just identify the different kinds of angles, as well as just finding simple angle measures without using equations. I also, as I told you, put a set on Quizlet that I would like you to work on. So I'm going to give you some time. On Quizlet, some of the teachers work with this set and some don't. The flashcard set works pretty well. Making tests for yourself also works pretty well. There were some that I think I tried to do that didn't work as well. So you have to experiment with all the things in Quizlet. So that should be on Canvas. I may need to add it here. I want you to take the rest of this class period to explore that Quizlet set.